of myself, obviously, and on behalf of CagePrisoners. And I think it's fantastic that CagePrisoners decided to do a launch of this book and celebrate International Women's Day. And by doing that, I think it makes a statement about what are the real values behind CagePrisoners. Now, it's been my privilege to work with CagePrisoners for nearly 10 years. It started when I helped Mosem to write his book. And at that point, I was on a fairly narrow focus, just doing that. But I had a secret weapon, and the secret weapon is in the room, but I'm not even going to look at her because she'll be embarrassed. It was the person who became one of my closest friends. And while on the one hand, I had Mosem giving me his account of all the terrible things that had happened to him, on the other hand, I had my secret weapon, who was showing me what it is to live and bring up a family under the same kind of difficulties that Mosem is talking about, but managing to make a whole oasis of joy. And in fact, my secret weapon is not the only one in the room. There are two others, and I'm very busily not looking at them, but they know who they are. And I think one of the things that comes out of this book is the way the strength of faith of these women has made it possible for them to overcome all the horrible isolation, the cruelty of control orders, the cruelty of having no letters from Guantanamo for years, the women whose husbands are on UN asset freezing sanctions, which means they can touch no money. All these horrible bureaucratic cruelties and political cruelties that Liz and Aisha both referred to, against them there have always been these amazing women. And for me, that's what this evening is about, and I'm incredibly honoured that they made their journeys from different parts of South and West and North London to be with us. Because somebody talked about role models earlier. There are only these role models as far as I'm concerned. But I just want to remind us that could we have imagined 11 years ago that today there would still be 166 men in Guantanamo Bay? And of those 166, 157 have no charges against them. And of them, 87 have been cleared. They've been cleared by the highest American intelligence and military authorities that there are. And yet those people, like Shaka, who was mentioned earlier, are still there. Of course, I want us to focus on Shaka because he matters so much to so many people in this room. But I just want to put someone else's name into your mind, because along with the wives and mothers that we have here tonight, there's a mother who sticks in my mind. She's a Kuwaiti mother who I met 10 years ago, and I never ever imagined that 10 years on, her son, who's called Fawzi al-Auda, and I urge you to Google him, look him up on CagePrisoners, and you'll find the story of Fawzi, who was a gentle student who went to Pakistan and worked in the most deprived areas, and that was what he thought was his religious duty. The story of how Fawzi got taken, sold, and taken to Guantanamo, and the fact that today, while we're sitting here, Fawzi is one of those on hunger strike at Guantanamo Bay. When I think about his mother, and we aren't with her, I just want to ask you all to remember her and Fawzi in your prayers. Apart from that, I just want to say I've been on a very steep learning curve for 10 years, and I thank not only my darling secret weapons, my dear, dear friends, for accompanying me and showing me another life, but I want to thank my colleagues in the Institute of Race Relations and in CagePrisoners for supporting me all the way. And at that point, I think I'll stop, and we're ready to take questions to any of us. And thank you again very much for attending.
Victoria Brittain, author of Shadow Lives. Thank you so much for coming here. See, you've got your flowers.
Very happy with my flowers.
I just wanted to ask you, how long did it take you to write Shadow Lives?
Well, of course, I've been working on it for 10 years, although I didn't realise I was working on it. Because first of all, I was working on Merzem's book, and then I was working on the play. But it was 2 years ago that some of the women said to me, "Come on, aren't you a writer? Where are our stories? You know all our stories." And so then I decided to just do it. So it took me like about a year and a half of writing. And
So what is it that really inspired you to write this book? What is it?
two things. One is the women. They're so great and so inspiring, and I wanted other people to know about them. And the second thing was the cruelty and injustice that I saw in so many of these cases. I just thought it was completely intolerable. People need to know about these things because this isn't really what Britain is meant to be like. So it was the two things.
So how do you think this will reach international media? We've had this event, of course, brilliant turnout, but how do you think we need to inspire people to get this international?
Well, I think we just have to keep on doing what we always do, which is write articles, put stuff on the website, encourage people to come to meetings. I think meetings are great because people get a feeling of being in a community that cares about the same things. And I think they go home and they decide to do stuff.
So we've had one of those meetings today, and of course everyone feels inspired, everyone wants to do something. What is it that you think they should do?
Well, I think they all have to write to Cameron, William Hague, Theresa May, ceaselessly telling them this is completely unacceptable. They have to write to the newspapers, they have to talk to everybody they know, especially people who don't know about this stuff. And all of us as an activist, we can all do something.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much and congratulations on your book. Enjoy your flowers.